Good Wednesday afternoon. Jerry Miller, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville. We're live in the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. I love connecting with you guys through this network and platform. A lot on today's docket. We have a show crammed with knowledge bombs, digestible news for you today. And we're obviously going to start with the governor. I'm a parent. I'm a young parent. My little boy is not yet kindergarten age, not quite even preschool age. I watched the governor's press conference yesterday with so much focus, as so many parents did, and left so confused. We'll talk about that today on the I Love CVille Show. We'll talk about the potential demise of the CVille Weekly. We published and told you about this on the network last night. Publisher and ownership at the CVille terminated the top 3 employees. Laid off, pink slipped, tomato. Top 3 gone at the CVille Weekly. That story from every single angle on the I Love CVille Show, including perspective from the ownership team and Blair Kelly, who reached out to me yesterday with a statement for the show. We have a restaurant spotlight on the downtown mall that means quite a bit to me. A restaurant that's opening back up again, that has its back against the walls in revolutionary soup. And we're going to spotlight the value proposition and what revolutionary soup means to this community. I know the brand well, and the back of this brand is against the wall. We need to support it. We have X's and O's strategy of how a private business has opened a food hall or is opening a food hall and beer garden concept on the downtown mall. Many of the elements we covered on this program as a family, as a network, of how we could stimulate the economy, especially downtown. Many of those elements have manifested themselves in a food hall and beer garden concept that's going to crush it. So much to cover on today's show. This program, thanks to a lot of sponsors, we're an advertising agency and we love working with businesses in our community, and 2 of our favorite interstate pest and service companies, and Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. They are making such positive impacts in this community. Interstate is 4 generations of family at Interstate. And Scott Wagner, it's chiropractic care, it's physical therapy, it's sports medicine. He's changing people's lives. These 2 companies helping you on the home front and with your body. Guys, hammer the like button. Please hammer the like button. That's all we ask from you with the content we create, is you like it and share it. Only thing we're asking. Judah Wickhauer is our director. Love Judah Wickhauer. Without him, we could not do this program. Judah, I'm ready to run headlines. The first one from the governor and Ralph Northam. This story that is going to continue to mature. He goes yesterday afternoon around 2:15 with his bi-weekly press conference saying, here's the plan for the reopening for schools in the fall. He gets ahead of it. I'm confused. I don't know if you're confused. I'll read straight from the plan. In phase 2, which most schools can enter now, according to the governor, schools can offer instruction for preschoolers through 3rd graders, English language learners, and students with disabilities. Summer camps in school buildings will be allowed. You heard that right. Summer camps inside school buildings are allowed now, according to the governor. However, he says strict social distancing measures must be enforced. Only 1 child per each seat on the school bus. How do you enforce that? My little boy is 2 years old, and I can already see the kid has ants in his pants. He does something for 15 seconds, and he goes on to something else. How do you enforce only 1 child assigned to 1 seat on a school bus? Here's another thing. You have to limit large gatherings to 50 people. I actually think that they can do that in schools. How about this one? During recess or PE or playing outside, the students must have 10 feet of physical distance. How do you enforce that? When you're playing sports, the students must be 10 feet apart. What sport can you think of where you are 10 feet apart from someone on the court? Maybe you could, tennis? When you're playing singles, not doubles, can't be apart from somebody from 10 feet if you're playing doubles. Singles tennis, yes. I don't see many elementary school kids banging it from the baseline, forehand to backhand, hitting some nice drop shots and volleys at the net playing tennis. The kids in elementary school I see are running around the playground like maniacs, touching each other, getting each other's faces, playing tag, and you know what? Being kids. Being kids. How are you going to enforce that? I don't know. I often admit on this program where I'm confused. I don't know what's happening, what's going on here. I don't know what's going on here with this plan. If you agree or disagree, let me know. And how about this? I was having this conversation with Kelly Jackson yesterday. And we were just spitballing about the state of schools and whatnot. Say you have 2 children, just talking out loud here. Just talking out loud here. You're a mom or dad. You have 2 children. One is a little more prone to health issues than the other. So you're a little more hesitant to send your loved one, your child, to school because he or she is more prone to health issues. If you send your other child that's not prone to health issues to school because you understand the value of socialization and you need to get them out of your hair because you're losing your freaking mind. If you send the healthy kid to school and the healthy kid comes home, isn't the healthy kid interacting with the one that may be prone to some health issues? And isn't that just like sending the one that has some health issues to school? You see what I'm saying? You can't quarantine your children. If one goes, that's like the second one going too, or the third one going, or the fourth one going. You can't quarantine your children. It's a crazy time. And does anyone expect masks to be adhered to? I am an adult, okay? And I can't stop touching my face. Have you seen my 2-year-old? Or all our kids? Oh, man, I'm confused. We'll follow it. It certainly is pressing. Why don't we go to the next story, and let's go to the CVille Weekly. This one hits close to home. So the CVille Weekly, I'll give you a little history. I've had numerous interactions with this publishing company, financially, from a deal-making standpoint, from coexisting in a media space standpoint, just seeing them grow. Freelanced for its predecessor, The Hook, when I was building my business, or tried to. So let's get to the story. And tell me if it's on screen, Judah. It's on screen? Let's get the first one from Lisa Providence. So here's how this played out. First one from Lisa Providence. News story. The CVille Weekly laid off, terminated, pink-slipped, let go. Depending on who you speak to in this conversation, it's a different perspective. It's like tomato, tomato. Obviously, if you were the one that was let go, as opposed to the one that was doing the let going, you have a different perspective. So Lisa Providence puts on Twitter, and it becomes viral news and will be in the news cycle from a TV and print standpoint. Mark my words, you'll see the progress, and you'll see the TV stations cover it after we put it out on I Love CVille. So Lisa Providence, who previously worked for the CVille Weekly, who I believe at one time Lisa Providence was the editor of the CVille Weekly, no longer working there. She still has connections in the newsroom. She puts a tweet out yesterday that it's a bloodbath at the CVille Weekly. Editor, talented writer, publisher, art director, given the axe after this week's paper went to bed. Those are her words. I saw this on Twitter because I follow Lisa and because I'm a local news junkie. I amplified this tremendously by spotlighting it on 12 Facebook pages, 12 Twitter accounts, the third largest Instagram in the community, putting it on a daily e-newsletter and showcasing on a popular podcast. So now it's in the news cycle because we've done that. Management, immediately after we put this on the I Love CVille Network, management reaches out to me with their message from Blair Kelly, the publisher, and I'll give you that shortly. Before we do, I want to follow up on this. One perspective here is the people were terminated right after they put yesterday's paper to bed, and were said, according to one of the three, you have 1 week's severance. Peace out, so long, hasta luego, sayonara, goodbye, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Good night. That's according to one of the three that were let go. Put that screenshot up there, please, Judah. Thank you. So the folks that were let go, one of the three said, we were giving 1 week severance, or at least I was, and I was told this immediately after the paper went to bed. All right. Before I get to management's statement, let's just talk strategy and basic optics. If you own a company, from one time or another, you're going to have to let someone go. I have. It sucks. Letting someone go sucks. Okay? It's not fun. It is uncomfortable. You're uncertain how people are going to respond. It sucks letting someone go. Especially someone that's been with you. The editor has been with the paper for over 4 years. The publisher even longer. Okay, we're talking years in the building. But there are ways you let people go. It's called managing expectations and managing perception. You give them notice. You give them a little bit longer of burn rate when they are let go, especially if it's amicable. And by burn rate, I mean a little bit longer severance than 1 week. You don't say, as soon as the paper goes to bed on Tuesday, you're let go and don't have a job, because it makes the employees feel like commodities that can be disposed of, as opposed to human beings. Even worse, and I can't believe I have to say this, letting people go during a global pandemic when the economy is in the pooper and uncertainty is at tremendous proportions seems also to be a bit, out of touch, insensitive. Is that fair? All right, so Lisa Providence puts the tweet out on her page yesterday. We amplified the message considerably across the I Love CVille Network. It reaches over 250,000 people. Those are backed by analytics. Then the publisher contacts me through Facebook Messenger, Blair Kelly, who is a good businessman. He's a good businessman. He runs multiple businesses. He's a serial entrepreneur. He and I were across the conference room and negotiating table when I sold them Charlottesville Restaurant Week in a 5-figure deal. We sold them Charlottesville Restaurant Week in a 5-figure deal. He'll confirm that. So I understand he's a sophisticated investor, a savvy businessman, someone who understands a P&L and a balance sheet, and someone who understands how to run an organization. So from his perspective, he's like, advertising is shrinking, print is dying, and a pandemic has magnified the collapse of print and its industry. To further justify what I just said, you have Allison at the Daily Progress, and Catherine at the Daily Progress, and Tyler at the Daily Progress, and Nolan Stout at the Daily Progress currently on furlough. So this is not unique to the CVille Weekly. The staff writer, Brian McKenzie, furlough. The staff writers at the Daily Progress are being furloughed 1 week for back-to-back months because print advertising and newspapers are in the pooper. So this isn't unique to the CVille Weekly. Blair Kelly, the publisher, is like, I have to run the business and keep it alive. The only way I can do that is to release some fat on the payroll, and by fat, I mean salaries. And he did that. And his goal and mission as the publisher is to keep the CVille Weekly heading in the right direction, and in the right direction, it's just survival right now. Like, cut costs, survive, expand burn rate, keep the business freaking afloat. So that's what he did. He responds to me after we amplify it on I Love CVille, and here's the message from Blair Kelly. Jerry, we did not pink slip our editorial and creative departments. We did unfortunately have to lay some people off and hope that when business picks back up, we can hire folks back again. Publishing is a cyclical business, and we've had to cut staff in several previous recessions over 31 years. Don't look for us to go anywhere, though. We will adapt to the financial realities of 2020 and continue working for our readers and other business customers as they work to reopen. And he also confirms that we will continue to publish the print paper at the usual outlets every week. So he says the model ain't changing, print-wise. He says he's just cutting salaries. He's going to bring in some rookie, fresh green blood, and that rookie, fresh green blood will work at 25, 30% of the salary. So you get a 30% reduction off the rip. And when you get green, young flesh blood, you often get people that aren't jaded, that you can exploit, and they probably give you 10% more production. The crappy part for the community is when you bring young, fresh, green blood into a newsroom, they don't have any contacts. They don't have any connections. They don't know the community. They don't know the people. They don't know the stories. They don't know who to call. I've been in this community for 20 years, went here for the University of Virginia. My first job out of UVA was as a staff writer for the Daily Progress. I finished my career as the youngest editor in the history of the Daily Progress. And in those 20 years have developed a contact list that is second to none. When you bring in fresh, green, rookie blood into a newsroom and you cut their pay and you expect them to put more bylines out and more capacity out, you're basically saying to the community, the news is not that important to us. And that's not good. Because the whole reason I read local news is not for the BS Associated Press wire stories or the stuff that's regurgitated from internet sites everywhere. The reason I read the CVille Weekly is because of the stuff that happens in the music scene or the food scene or the downtown scene, the entrepreneurial scene, the protest scene, the behind-the-scenes stuff that only savvy and experienced people can do. Ugh. Put the two graphics back on screen. If you're not watching the visual version, if you listen to the podcast version of the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, thank you. Our numbers are spiking through the roof on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. We're crushing it. But there is tremendous value to watch the visual element of the show because our director, Judah Wickower, is putting screenshots and visual elements on there that are undoubtedly news, and it's content that's reported before NBC 29 and CBS 19 and the Daily Progress and CVille Tomorrow even get the stuff. We're nimble, and we can pivot and get content out much quicker than traditional news outlets can. And that's just a freaking fact. We are down to this from a local news coverage standpoint in Charlottesville, Virginia. You have the old stalwart NBC 29 who is cutting costs left and right after a recent purchase. They are cutting costs left and right. Gone is Scott Hamler, gone is Jay Yurgo, gone is Henry Graff, gone is amazing people at NBC 29. I used to work there. How I got my start in broadcasting was at NBC 29. 2 TV shows that bared my name. Gone is great people. They're cutting costs. CBS 19 got bought by a new player who's committed to local news coverage. The new player that purchased CBS 19 is legit. They are local. We'll see if they answer the bell or what they're saying they're going to do. CVille Tomorrow, I missed the gritty news that was Sean Tubbs and hard news and development. CVille Tomorrow was still there, and the Daily Progress is still there, and I think the Progress has been doing well lately. But the future of the CVille is fragile. Let's get to our next story, and Alex Urpí is going to join us. Alex Urpí, Alex, if you're watching, we'll go to you in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes. The next story is from Dooner's Restaurant and also from Beer Run. So on this show, we talked about Beer Run closing because of COVID-19 and how they handled COVID-19 in their restaurant by being transparent with the community, and we saluted them and applauded them for that. I loved how they handled that communication. They handled the communication better than the CVille handled the communication in managing optics. Okay, unfortunately, Dooner's in a similar predicament, and Dooner's has chosen, instead of a shorter 2-week closing period for Beer Run did, Dooner's has chosen to go the summer. And I respect it. They say, here's what's happened. We released a statement. It's difficult to pivot this business constantly, whether it's curbside, takeout, dining in the parking lot, dining in the restaurant, whether it's one of our team members getting sick down the road or not. It's difficult. So instead, they've taken the patient approach and said, we're going to pump the brakes, Dooner's Restaurant and Ivy, and we're going to wait till the end of the summer and reassess and open then, hopefully. Respect. Have you seen a common theme in today's program? My business, as an owner of one of my businesses, as the owner of an advertising agency, you know what we do? We strategically manage perception for our clients. Because when you strategically manage perception for your clients, you can help determine the narrative and how things play out. Governor Ralph Northam, in his press conference yesterday, in outlining his plan for education, poorly managed perception because parents across Virginia are left scratching their heads of the future and what is expected of them and their children. The CVille Weekly, and how it terminated, pink-slipped, laid off, amicably let go, whatever the hell you want to call it. But how that relationship destructed with 3 people that had been there for years, that was poorly managed perception. There's no statement on the CVille website or Facebook page, at least not at 12:30 when this show started. Dooner's managed it well. Beer Run managed it well. It's important. Let's go to Alex, Judah. Alex Urpí, I'm going to reach out to him. I'm excited to welcome him to the program. He is an ambassador and a champion of the Hispanic community in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. He's got a good mind, a brilliant mind for finance, just a key resource for us in Charlottesville. He's on the line here, Judah. All right, we're live with you. Alex, thank you first for joining us on the program. How are you since the last time we spoke with you?
Thanks for having me on, Jerry. Nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you as well.
We are doing well, seeing definitely light at the end of the tunnel here in terms of COVID. Just seeing, a little more good news, I would say. I know last time I was on, we talked a little bit about the difficulty a lot of Latino and minority entrepreneurs were having getting access to some resources, and I've definitely seen that improve slightly, not just on the PPP side, but also with some of the great work coming out of CIC with the Business Recovery Fund there. So it's definitely seeing some more light at the end of the tunnel. I know there's going to be a lot more challenges still ahead of us in terms of small business. I think we probably haven't seen the full effect and the numbers on how many small businesses, either won't recover or are still in a lot of trouble and need some help. But I think there's definitely some. I try to be an optimist.
Sure.
You have to be in my business.
Sure.
And I think just generally as a life personality, it helps to think that way and to go forward in that kind of perspective.
How have you seen the Hispanic community and Latino community positively rise from this? We're positive people like you. We're optimists, cautious optimists, realistic optimists, but still optimists nevertheless. Can you give us like a firsthand, boots on the streets story that our viewers can relate to?
Well, I mean, definitely one. I know it's just been in the news. You can check it out on Facebook. Sombreros, great restaurant. I knew them when they were doing catering, food truck. They just opened for takeout and delivery, I believe, a couple days ago. Bernardo and Lucrecia, they're incredible people, such hardworking people. They had a dream for this business. They were going to open in March. We all know what happened in March, but they have just pushed through, persevered. And I was just so thrilled a couple of days ago to see that they're finally able to open for takeout and delivery now. They're on York Place, downtown mall. And so just a great story of how you can start even in the midst of so much difficulty, but by persevering, working hard. I mean, I would meet with Bernardo and see how much work he was putting into the location where they're at, and just the work that they put into their food, the dedication that they have, and the love of the cuisine that they create. And I think that's so typical of, I don't want to say typical because we're all unique, but so common in the Latino experience. I think we had done a study at Forward Adelante magazine about, I would say, 3 years ago, and we had been looking at the numbers and realized that Latinos, we start businesses at about 3 times the national average.
That's awesome.
And there is just something about, I think, the Latino experience that we are driven to start small businesses, and many times in when it's tiendas and restaurants, to share our culture and our food with the countries that we emigrate to.
How that was a great response. How about we've covered it because it's important to discuss the murder of George Floyd. Throw that to you. I respect your opinion. I want to get out of your way on the topic, and then I want to get a little bit deeper as we get back to opportunities within the community that you want to highlight. But first, your thoughts on George Floyd.
Such a terrible circumstance. I know it's funny that it's good that you bring it up because it connects so much to what we do. I was reading a very incredible article by an African American who is a senior executive up at a very large Wall Street firm, and he pointed out 4 things that I think basically are how I feel about the subject, which is, first off, we definitely need to deal with the very long-standing implications in this country of how African Americans have been treated. And it goes very deep. And I think it goes even, I'm going to be honest, he had written this and I agree with it. It goes even deeper, I think, than just policing. There are definitely changes to be made to policing. I mean, as someone where one half of my family came from a fascist state and the other half from a communist police state, when you have bad policing, it can infect every corner of your society. And I think African Americans have seen that in this country more than most. But he made an excellent point, this gentleman, that you can deal with many of the societal implications, but until we deal with the fact that there is a generational wealth gap between minorities, African Americans in particular, and the rest of the country, you are still going to be dealing with racial disparities because you're dealing with socioeconomic disparities that are the result of past racist policies. So until we really work on that, and that comes down to housing, Habitat for Humanity is working there. That comes down to businesses, because probably if you don't have a home to pass down to your child, what do you have to pass down in terms of generational wealth and really grow the wealth of Latino and especially Black families? And that's your business. That is how until you're able to afford home ownership and you're not renting anymore, you are going to need to pass down that business. So we need to be able to help Black minority business owners to generate wealth. Because as long as you're just generating income and paying it off in rent, you're not closing the wealth gap. You're sustaining, but we obviously, as the murder of George Floyd shows, right, it's not good enough. Where we are in terms of sustaining and keeping the status quo, that's enough. And it shouldn't be good enough for our Black brothers and sisters. So really, we need to be closing that gap, and that's in the Black community. because and this gentleman from up in Wall Street, I forget if it was Goldman Sachs, I believe, African American, very high position there. He said he made an excellent point, which is, let's face it, many societies protect vested economic interests. If you have a vested economic interest, society tends to have an interest in protecting you. Right? And right now, what is one of the things that is sorely lacking in the Black and the Latino community is vested economic power. There's just the economic power that we have as consumers has not translated yet into economic power as businesses. We're still taking our hard-earned money and giving it to other business owners, not our own communities. So we need to get to the point where Latino and Black business owners are generating wealth in our own community and growing from there, because then there will be so much more pressure on society to look and say, you know what, even the most self-interested parts of society will say we need to be protecting these people. You cannot have a scenario where you have Black business owners that are generating wealth and the community is so powerful because they're there, and then they're going for a job and getting murdered. You know, so that, as it may seem, I would say, cynical to say, but I think this gentleman was spot on in terms of when you have economic power, you begin to see societal power as well. And that's gonna, at some point, that's gonna have to change as well as, so it's not as opposed to reform and policing, but as well as, you know, because we can change all the policing rules we want, but as long as we have African Americans and Latinos living in poverty, then we're still gonna see racial disparities. And so that needs to change. We have to work on that.
That was brilliant right there. Let's cut that into a highlight clip for tomorrow's show. We'll play that on tomorrow's show. Please start with my question to him all the way through that answer there. I'm afraid, and I'm going to ask you about the opportunities you guys are creating locally here shortly. I am trepid and nervous, and maybe afraid is the right word, that wealth gap and those disparities have become magnified and enlarged because of COVID. The government essentially has made Fortune 500 big brand, publicly traded companies essential, and then the small, locally owned businesses that we love to support non-essential. And in a 90-day period, we flooded the Walmart and we flooded the Lowe's and Amazons of the world, yet we forgot about the Martin Hardwares, or we forgot about the Guadalajaras, or we forgot about, La Michoacanas of the world. So this wealth gap in the last 90 days has been amplified from my standpoint. It makes me nervous because I agree the social unrest, guys, is going to grow stronger if we don't create or figure out a way to find some economic parity. Because if you were constantly behind the 8 ball on rent, or on paying your bills, or putting food on the table, or constantly like trying to find $1, eventually that's going to piss you off. So how do we do it? There's no answer. I mean, how do we do it? What do we do?
I think for me, it comes down, I think, to getting out of the way, like removing obstacles, because I've always heard the mentality, say, help Black businesses, help Latino businesses. And my mentality has always been, Black and Latino businesses are perfectly capable of growing themselves. We have the talent, we have the energy, we have the drive to do it. What we got to do is get rid of the obstacles that stand in the way of that. And a lot of times that's access to capital. CIC is just so valuable there in terms of providing access to capital to basically disadvantaged business owners, many of whom are Black and Latino, who would otherwise not be able to access it. And that's such a huge part of helping them grow and start and begin. And then, what we've done just recently at Minority Business Alliance, which has grown out of the Chamber of Commerce here in Charlottesville, is typically we have a huge marketing event, networking event, I should say, in September. And this year, realizing there's a good chance that doesn't happen, we said, all right, how can we sort of turn to that capital phase? And so we started the Endurance Fund, and we just had our first 4 recipients there, 4 minority businesses that really, they each received $1,000 grant from our fund.
I saw that.
And to help them basically get through this, and more importantly, not just get through COVID, but come out stronger on the other side, be able to actually restart and grow once we're permitted to do so,
Sure.
in these coming phases of reopening. So 4 great businesses. I do want to highlight them real quick, and then I'll continue with my answer to your question. Just Antoine Brinson, Culinary Concepts AB.
Yeah.
Such an incredible guy. He spoke at our previous MBA panel. Just such great thoughts in terms of how he has pivoted in COVID and just new ideas that have come out of just his ingenuity. Also, Pranav Shah, he owns Fuzzy's Taco Shop. That's such a great place. Yeah. They're hopefully going to be able to. I know they're doing takeout and delivery now, as well. And then you got Ty Cooper, LifeView Marketing.
Yeah.
I don't know him.
He's fantastic.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And he's especially fantastic, I think, in helping other Black businesses showcase themselves and showcase how excellent they are. And then so we had Pierre, Pearl Island Catering. Pearl Island. I mean, we had Ford Adelante. We've known them for 5-6 years now, and they're just always incredible. So I think that's one of the ways that we help. I think we really start in terms of growth. And, the phrase bottom up sort of comes to mind, but bottom up in the sense of, helping, and then helping by getting out of the way of and removing obstacles towards the growth that are just natural. Because Latinos and Black business owners, we have it in us to just grow and take off. So the question is, if that's there, what obstacles, what sort of hurdles are in the way that we need to push out of the way? And I agree with you. I think COVID created, and the response to COVID created some new hurdles, particularly for minority businesses that don't have the benefit of being Fortune 500.
Well, and even like localizing it even more, this is what COVID has done. It pushed an emphasis for so many different sectors to the internet and to social and to digital. And unfortunately, and I know this because I own an advertising agency, unfortunately, the businesses that often do not have the best social and digital presences are minority-owned businesses. So COVID has amplified the need to have a sound digital infrastructure more than ever. And that's the exact infrastructure that perhaps is missing from a lot of the businesses that we love locally that we need to support. It's disheartening.
Mm-hmm. No, and in reality, there's only so much you can do, given the small amount of capital that you have, especially when you're starting out.
Sure.
It's real tough. Someone who's, putting capital into their storefront. Now COVID comes and said, well, I have no more capital to now suddenly be turning myself into an online sales business. And it created a whole new set of challenges. But I definitely think, just being with CIC, I know their business recovery fund is now at 600,000 in terms of private and public funding there. And I know they've given some of that out, and we're in the process of doing that. But I think that just shows you, the generosity of our community, that we were able to really put that together and find individuals and groups, public and private, that were able to contribute to that. So I think the willpower is there. I think it's getting the word out that, access to capital is key, being willing to do business. I think, my fear with COVID sometimes is that if we've pushed people again to the internet, to Amazon, to Lowe's, to Walmart, we have to then do our job to, as we come out of COVID, push them back and say, don't keep going to Amazon and Walmart and Lowe's. Now that we're in the reopening phase, check out, find out whether this, Guadalajara that you used to go to, you should be aware, are the patios open? Yes, they are. Not 50% indoors yet. I would definitely encourage people to go back to the businesses you used to frequent, right? And try to make a concerted effort to support them, because you can't just let our behaviors change to the point that we're now just using Amazon all the time.
Yeah.
When there are so many local businesses that can provide such quality service and such quality products. And most importantly, that money is then coming back into our community.
Sure. All right. You have killed this. You always do. You inspire me. I'm going to ask you a difficult question, and I'm very curious of your perspective here. I think now more than ever, it's important to have conversations that are potentially awkward, that can lead to change. We're in this phase of having real talk that we hope leads to actionable, tangible change. So what I've seen is this perspective that's out there. Is a lot from, say, white America. You know, we, in building our businesses, the perspective that's out there is we didn't get help. We built this business. We worked it. We started from scratch. This is how it is. It's survival of the fittest. It's dog eat dog. It's Darwinism out there when it comes to building a business, when it comes to building generational wealth, when it comes to closing the gap. So some perspective that's out there is go work harder, take more risk, have a bigger vision, be more entrepreneurial, and that's how you'll close the gap. What I'd like to throw to you here is how that perspective is not truly actuality. And I think you and your family can offer a lot because you have been successful and have built a business. And I love seeing the brand and the logo. It's phenomenal. I love the tree that I'm seeing there. Okay. But where I'm going with this is you have not had, or maybe your father or folks that you know, people of color, have not had the same opportunities. Even, we may not even know it. But you have not had the same opportunities in building this business. Can you handle that topic and go anywhere you want here? Because I think that's a very important conversation that needs to be had here.
Two things. First off, I think that view can be challenged, the facts themselves. In terms of, there have been studies that show, and the first one that comes to mind is they did this was back, I think, even in the 2000s, one of the phone call studies where basically job applicants, and this was in the job market, but I think we can fairly translate it to entrepreneurship as well. And they had the applicants basically apply for a job, same exact resume, except they would change the name to a name that clearly sounded black. And the rate of responses plummeted. The exact same resume. So I think just historically, I think we can look at it, and even in terms of the wealth gap. The wealth gap, you're talking 1950s, the fact that most Americans were given loans by the government to purchase houses in the post-war period. And specifically, African Americans were not included. Right? So there is your basis for the wealth gap.
That's like starting a 5K race, not at the starting line, but starting a 5K race 10 miles behind the starting line. Not having a chance to have a home and loans and access to capital to buy a home that is going to help you build generational wealth.
Exactly. And I think the second part that I would say is, even if, and I do believe there's been progress. I'm not a negativity kind of person, and this country has done a lot. I love this country because it's done so much for my family. When we had nowhere else to go from Cuba, this country was there with open arms. But even, I would say the second point that I would make is just the notion of, well, what kind of you want to live in?
Amen.
Let's say, you have a group of people and minority entrepreneurs that there are some barriers in the way to their wealth. And are you going to sit there and say, well, since I did this without any help, I'd rather just not help anybody else, and if they get stayed behind there and my whole community is poor because of it, well, that it is what it is. And that just doesn't make much sense to me. I'm reminded there's a great call in the Old Testament about how the Israelites are asked to care for the foreigner and the orphan and the widow, even though the Israelites had to take over the whole land themselves. Like, the Lord helped them take over the land, but they went in there and did their fields, they grew their crops. But all of a sudden, at the end of, I think it was the 15th or the 50th year, they had to just leave part of their crops for other people to come and help. Right? And they just said, well, I spent 50 years growing that crop. Why can't they just do the same thing? And the point wasn't that they could think. The point was when you've been given so much, sometimes, the Lord calls you to give back, and it's the right. And even if you're not from a Christian, sometimes it's the right thing to do to help others. It shouldn't be so hard, especially to whom. And granted, we've worked hard, but I just always have a mentality of that. My hard work has been in conjunction with the fact that everything that I have in my life has been given to me by God. And so if everything belongs to him, there's no point at which I get to say, well, that's 100% mine, and I'd rather not help anybody else. And so I think it's a combination of the two things. One, to challenge the notion that we all started at the same, clearly didn't. And the second, to challenge the notion, even if you worked, that's fantastic that you worked hard and you did this all yourself. Now, do something even more wonderful, and let's help others. Even if you can say, and I think the notion that Blacks and Latinos don't work hard enough is sort of dispelled by how much work they do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever been, part of it is just going out and seeing it yourself. I mean, go to a Latino restaurant.
Yeah.
Before that place is ready to go, go there when they're working on the location, before they even open, and see how much work they are putting in. They don't have 10 employees doing everything for them. It's the owner, it's the owner's family, it's maybe 1 or 2 employees. They're the ones making that whole place ready, and go there and see what they're doing with their own hands and how much hard work goes into that, right? And then just be willing to say, how can I help my neighbor? How can I love my neighbor? There's no greater love than laying down your life for your friends and your neighbors. Right? And sometimes that means, and it's not about saying, does my friend or neighbor deserve it? It's not about deserve. It's about doing the right thing and doing something out of love. And I think the more we can sort of go to that mentality and less question, did they deserve it? Which is such a negative way of looking at things, and go to the positive and say, well, can I just help? Can't I just do something that will make other people happy and that will rebound and grow the whole community? I mean, just imagine how much wealthier our whole community would be if, instead of because we always sit there, we don't need to tear down white wealth. We need to boost up Black and Latino wealth. And can you imagine how much more wealthy this community would be if we doubled? I mean, just think about how many African Americans and Latinos are out there ready for their businesses to just take it to the next level, and how much wealth that would generate in our community. And we would all share in it together. Our community would be such a more fantastic place if that were the case. And we just have to, and again, it's getting out of the way. It's not looking at this as handouts. Olga Morse, who was founded for Adelante, she always used to talk about a hand up, not a handout. It's not about a handout. It's about saying somebody knocked you down 50 years ago, 30 years ago. Maybe it doesn't even have to be somebody. It could be something. It could be COVID. COVID knocked you down. Am I going to sit there and say, oh, just get up, I got up? Or am I just going to extend my hand and say, hey, let me help you up? And I just think that's the way to go about it.
Dude, you just crushed it right there, right? I mean, I think that right there is the sizzle reel to play tomorrow. You made everyone, I got goosebumps, and I know a lot of people have goosebumps that are watching right now. You made us better today. Thank you for coming on the show, Alex. Seriously, anytime anything at all, hit me up. Then that week, you're anytime. Seriously.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. Definitely wanted to share the news. And one more thing I do want to share.
Sure.
There are still, if you still need resources out there, there is at least one that I know of that is still open, Virginia 30-Day Fund.
Yeah, we had him on the show.
Yes, they're fantastic.
We had the founder. It's amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah. So it's va30fund.com.
Yeah, that's it.
No, va30dayfund.com.
Yeah, va30dayfund.com. We had the founder on the show. Guys, he literally said on the show, we want to give you money. It just requires you guys to apply. He wants to give you money. All you have to do is apply. Alex, you crushed it. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Jerry. You have a good one.
You too. Can you guys hammer the like button for Alex, please? I mean, how good was that? He's the president of Forward Adelante, the Latino go-to media publication. I mean, hammer the like button for that interview right there. And Alex, that was so good, Alex. Man, we are 7 minutes away from the end of the show, and I have so much content that I have to get to. This undoubtedly is turning into 2 hours. I mean, if you're looking at me, I'm not going to be able to get to this. All right, I want to inform. This is all about knowledge bombs, digestible ear candy from Charlottesville that's going to make you smarter. Digestible ear candy from Charlottesville that's going to make you smarter. That is good. God, that just literally came. Let's go to Rachel and the sizzle reel from Rachel. Rachel John Dro. She is the general manager of Luce and Bizou. We had Rachel and Laura Price, who's the GM of Bang Tapas and the venue called The Space. These two beautiful, brilliant, and intelligent ladies are running Vincent and Tim's restaurant empire in Charlottesville that is Bizou, Luce, The Space, Bang Tapas. Okay? So we had them on the show yesterday, and if you missed it, you missed a fabulous interview. Judah, we'll go to Rachel very shortly. They are creating a food hall and beer garden on the downtown mall that includes Bracelets and the ability to eat and drink outside in the parking lot behind Bizou right off the mall. The city of Charlottesville wasn't going to do anything for them, so they said, you know what? Let's innovate and do it ourselves. I'm excited to play this sizzle reel. Judah in 3, 2, 1. You guys are innovating. You realize you have a private parking lot. It's not being utilized, and we need freaking seats, and people feel more comfortable being outside. You take it from there. What can we expect from this food hall beer garden concept?
Well, if everything goes according to plan, lots of Excel sheets and meetings and just getting everybody organized, it will be a well-oiled machine where people will come in. There'll be somebody at the door or the entrance, really, who greets you. If you're trying to have an alcoholic beverage, you'll get a wristband and your ID checked right there. So that's your one sort of interpersonal closest interaction with somebody who will be masked, who will be at appropriate social distance. They're going to assign you a picnic table. We've got like 18 picnic tables that are assembled right now, thanks Tim Burgess in the back lot for all your muscle work back there. And then you'll sit down and you're going to order online on your phone. So you're going to be able to access our menu, which will include stuff from the lot. You'll be able to order from Luce, a new Bizou summer menu. It'll come inside, we'll expo it, and then you'll have somebody who brings it out on a tray to you. Beverages, food, the works, sets it down on a little side table. We've got lots of old wine barrels, compliments of Michael Shaps and Wineworks, who's loaning them to us. So that's like your server table. So they'll drop the food off. They're not going to touch the table. You grab your food, take the tray away. We've got hand sanitizer on the table. We've got multiple bathrooms just short distance off site so people can come use the bathroom. There's going to be a bathroom attendant who's sanitizing before and after and making sure it's one person or one family group at a time who's in that space. Really trying to cut down on people being too close to each other, but also really having a fun outside feel and just being able to soak it up because it's something new and something that they haven't seen before.
And it's something that we're craving because we've been so quarantined that we're so excited to get out. This concept is going to crush it. So, I mean, I love the potential of it. I think it's going to crush it. I think we're eager to be outside. We want to be. We're eager to leave the house. We're eager to support local. People are probably more comfortable to sit outside, leverage the parking lot. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, Laura Price, I asked her what it was like working for Godfathers. And guys, Vincent and Tim are godfathers in the restaurant scene. When you think of godfathers in restaurants in Charlottesville, you think of Craig Hartman. You think of Angelo at the Ivy Inn. You think of Vincent and Tim, godfathers. I want to even give it to the Finazzo family at Sal's, helping make them all. When you think of businesses that have helped make downtown and Charlottesville's culinary scene, you think C&O, you think Bizou. These literally help create downtown. I asked Laura Price, what's it like to work for these guys? Judah, you have that one ready? Let's play that in 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah.
Vincent and Tim are like godfathers in like the restaurant scene here. When someone like Wilson Ritchie, and Wilson Ritchie's watching, when someone like Wilson Ritchie says, you got to talk to Vincent and Tim, they like made this scene down here. I mean, we obviously got to give CNO some props. CNO helped create this here, the family behind Sal's Cafe Italia. But Vincent and Tim from the get-go, how about, can you put in perspective the Godfather-esque nature of these two men?
Yeah, I can, because I started working with them when I was 21.
Wow.
I started at Bizou and was the general manager at Bizou for 5 years. Then went to California and had a little hiatus there before coming back and coming right back into the family with Bang and with our then new venture at the Space Downtown. But they are well known within the community. You've already mentioned a couple of restaurants where Dean Maupin from CNO worked with Tim and Vincent at one point. There are so many restaurants in this community that I can't even begin to name them, that are people who have learned and trained under Tim and Vincent. So the Godfather essence of them is so beyond true. And they are family. They are family to me. Rachel is family. It is one big family that we love, and that is why we have been here so long and will continue to be here so long.
I'm excited to support this team. I'm really excited about it. I love the innovation. Put the graphic on if you could, Judah, for the lot. I'm excited to support them. I love Bang Tapas. There are very few restaurant settings more romantic than the back patio on a nice night, like a 70-degree night, the back patio at Bang Tapas over a couple of martinis, and those martinis are strong. I think mine's the honey ginger, where they drizzle the honey on the side. I mean, I think that's what it's. There is not much more. If you're a guy and you're looking to impress your wife, your better half, you're looking to get a special lady looking in your direction, a couple of martinis in that rear patio behind Bang Tapas off South Street with the glittering, sparkling lights hanging there and the hum of a summertime evening in Central Virginia in the Blue Ridge. That'll get you some romance points. Roger Voisinet is watching the show, and he says, Jerry, don't forget about Sandy McAdams. He just left that comment in the I Love CVille group. He's right. Sandy McAdams of CNO fame. Sandy McAdams passes the torch to the late, great Dave Simpson. And the late, great Dave Simpson passes it to the current proprietor and Dean Maupin, the chef. Dean, tutelage under Vincent and Tim. That shows you the Godfather nature. If there was a Mount Rushmore, Hartman, Vincent, and Tim. Bob Shada is watching the program. I love Bob Shada. He came on the show yesterday. Get that sizzle reel ready to go. First to report here that the fireworks show that we've grown to love on McIntyre Park is not going to happen this year. Haven't seen that in local news. Bob Shada, who's the fireworks coordinator, had the information for us. Since we had Bob on the show, and Bob, I'm going to do an email intro, Bob, with you and Barbara Lundgren and Tom Powell. Since we had you on the show, Bob Shada, multiple folks have reached out to us through the I Love CVille Network to save the 4th of July fireworks. If we as a community are going to save the 4th of July fireworks show, we now need a private citizen to offer a parcel of land that has some elevation. The city and the county doesn't look like it's going to happen on public or city or county or city land. So we need a private citizen. Bob Shada will help take care of the rest. I'll do an email with you and Tom Powell and Barbara Lundgren of the Toy Lift later today, Bob. Let's play that sizzle reel, Judah, in 3 and 2 and 1. You love this community, and one of the things we've known you for is fireworks, my friend. I'm going to get out of your way. What's happening here?
Yeah, unfortunately, I just got word from the city that the fireworks will not happen at McIntyre Park this year. I kind of suspected that earlier in the year when the city announced that all activities, all softball and everything was going to be off. But frankly, I was probably a little late in trying to come up with some other ideas. I thought, okay, if the city's not going to do it, which is what I was expecting, maybe I can still do it someplace else. So I had this vision of going to Carter's Mountain or one of the very high points in the area and getting a bunch of money and putting on the greatest fireworks show in the history of Charlottesville, because I really think with everything going on in the world, we could use it. Not that fireworks is the elixir for everybody, but it makes me feel great knowing it's our birthday, the country's birthday, and with everything going on with the protests and everything else, I just thought, man, if we could pull that off. I reached out to the fireworks group and said, what would make it a bigger show than last year? And they said, well, it's the size of your shells. I said, last year we spent 15, 20 grand on 4-inch shells. I said, let's go, can we go 20-inch shells? And that's a little too much with my ignorance on fireworks. But I just thought, unfortunately, Carter's Mountain, they've got their own activities going on. And with everybody, hurting so much from business and lack of business, asking them to shut down their business for another day so I could light some fireworks off in their mountain. It doesn't make any sense, and I get it. And I've reached out to a few other folks trying to find a high point. The purpose of it being that everybody could see it from up there as far as south of Scottsville and Crozet. Everyone could have seen it if I could have gotten the largest fireworks available, shooting it off from the highest point. I really think that
it would have been so cool.
But I was going to have drones going from above and watching the fireworks come up and televise that. Now there's probably a producer out there somewhere going, you can't do that, or that's impossible. And I don't know. I have a vision, and whether it's a realistic vision or not, and apparently it's just not going to come true.
So here's good to hear from Bob. I appreciate Bob. I like Bob a lot. Guys, if we want to save fireworks in Charlottesville, someone's got to step up. It'd be nice to have a show. We can do the show from our cars, watch it from our cars. Doesn't have to be a crowded situation. We have 2,500 people marching peacefully down Market Street from City Hall to the grounds at the University of Virginia. We can have a fireworks show. Someone step up. A couple things. I'm not going to be able to get to. I have 8 pieces of fresh news that is not reported in any news cycle or any media outlet in Charlottesville that you would salivate over. I'm not going to be able to get to this news today, Judah. We're going to have to save it for tomorrow, I guess. Colleen Tyler says the lack of real estate ads in the CVille Weekly undoubtedly helped its demise, and they're right. The CVille Weekly, and James Watson highlights this in the comment section as well, the CVille Weekly is very much driven by advertisements. And when you have the restaurant sector, and when you have the wedding and events and vineyards and breweries sector, and when you have the realtor sector uncertain and in shambles, realtor, Donna Patton. Someone say Donna Patton. Donna Patton, realtor, Donna Patton. She's getting on me because I was saying realtor, Donna Patton, realtor. When you have so many categories that are in peril and in a precarious position, these categories are just trying to keep the lights on and their employees with a paycheck. They're cutting back on the ad spend. The reality is, if you were a sophisticated business person and you were really trying to grow market share, the time for you to gain market share is now. So if you were a sophisticated business person, you would be advertising now, and that would translate to you getting more revenue. It's just like on the stock market. I pumped a good amount of money into the stock market in the last 30 days because I'm buying the dip. I'm buying the recovery. I understand in my lifetime, the last time an opportunity happened like this where I can buy at such a low price point was what, 08? '09, so 12 years ago, that I can buy stuff 65% discount. Same thing with advertising. If you were a sophisticated businessman, you would be advertising right now to take market share away from your competitors who are not advertising right now. That is why, though, that the CVille Weekly is potentially crumbling and why it's terminated, pink slip, let go, amicably broken up, whatever you want to call it, with its 3 top people, because it has to cut fat off the payroll and it has to bring in rookie reporters at half the price point to save money on salary. And we as a community suffer because we get news that's not as good as with experienced and seasoned reporters. Nature of life. We'll close on this. The last piece I want to get out to is Revolutionary Soup. Revolutionary Soup on the downtown mall is open. Judah, it's open daily till 4 p.m., is that right? 10 to 4. He says 10 to 4. Revolutionary Soup on the downtown mall is open 10 to 4 p.m. daily. Just reopened on the downtown mall. Dudes and dudettes, hear me. Support this place. Back is against the wall. You hear me? Support this place. Revolutionary Soup on the downtown mall. I'm emphasizing again. Support Revolutionary Soup on the downtown mall soon. Please. Phenomenal restaurant. Phenomenal food. Hired local people. Run by the man, the myth, the legend, and Wilson Ritchie. Support this restaurant. ASAP. Really. Hear me? You hear me? Please. All right, I'm Jerry Miller. It's the I Love CVille Show. I had so much information on today's show that I did not get it out today, so I guess we're going to have a phenomenal program tomorrow. You guys have a good one. Take care. Good show, Judah. I got so much information here that, hey, Judah, like, you didn't even get to this right. Like, any of these topics. Good work.